Hey, how's it guys? Alright, so in today's video, I want to go over how to use DuckDB. So if you've never heard of DuckDB before, DuckDB is an open source in-memory analytical database, and it is designed for data analytics on large data sets and can be easily integrated with many applications. And the database is accessible from various programming languages such as Python, R, or C++. So DuckDB has been my go-to local database application, and I found DuckDB offers a superior performance over SQLite, just in general. Now, before diving into the tutorial, I just want to quickly go over the pros and cons. Alright, so some of the benefits using DuckDB, such as the speed to query large data sets, and can run multiple queries concurrently, and which SQLite cannot do. Now, comparing to SQLite, DuckDB offers more complex or additional data types, such as arrays or nest records. If you're coming from BigQuery database, then you probably have used either the array data type or the nest records data type. And you can also perform CTEs and window functions. And this one thing that makes using DuckDB a lot easier than using SQLite if you want to perform more advanced analytical analysis. Now, comparing to SQLite, DuckDB is a columnar database. Now, DuckDB also offers streaming support, and this is one of the features I don't use often enough. But I think if you want to do a quick insertion or if you want to insert records simultaneously, then DuckDB is a much better choice than SQLite. And we can also create the database in memory. And finally, if you are working in data science or data analysis, then it's very user-friendly if you are using R or Python. Now let's talk about the drawbacks. So the only drawbacks I can think of, one, DuckDB is a pretty new technology, which means that for some of the features, it's going to be less mature and maybe a little bit incomplete when it comes to functionality-wise. And potentially, it may even have a smaller community support than SQLite, since SQLite has been around for a much longer period. Now, the other drawback is that DuckDB has a larger file size. So if you want to keep your application size small, then in that case, you may want to go with SQLite. But to be honest, with storage being so cheap these days, and I think that, the difference is very minimal. And the last drawback I can think of is that DuckDB is primarily focused on data analytical work. First, with SQLite, you can use just about for anything. But to be honest, you can use DuckDB for basically everything as well. But I'm putting this one here just because this is one of the drawback listed on the website. Alright, so that's going to be the overall summary that I want to cover. Now let's dive into the tutorial. Alright, so first, let's create a Python virtual environment. Alright, so I'm going to name the environment. Let's do DuckDB demo. Alright, then I'm going to set it into my environment. Then I'll activate the environment. Alright, so let me go into my environment here. And it should be right here. Alright, so first we need to install the library. And you can install DuckDB by using the command pip install DuckDB. And here you can see that the binary is only 10.3 megabytes. Now in this video, I want to show you two different examples so you can get started. So here let me paste my CSV file. Alright, so if we look at this CSV file, so this file is about almost 310 megabytes large. And one of the exercises that we're going to do is we're going to load that file directly into DuckDB without creating a table or anything. Alright, so I'm going to open my VS Code. Alright, so I'll name this as demo1. So for the first example, I'm just going to show you how to create a table, create a database, insert couple records, and close the database. All right, so there's one more file that I forgot. So it's just going to be the SQL file. Let me copy paste here. Now if I open the file, so basically inside the SQL file, we have this insertion statement. So basically we're going to insert these, I don't know how many records I have, but basically I'm going to insert these records into DuckDB database. All right, so let me make the font a little bit bigger. All right, so I'm going to import the package, and let me change the environment. All right, so I'm going to import DuckDB, then I'm going to load the SQL statement. Now to create a DuckDB database, so you simply reference DuckDB module .connect followed by the file name. And let me put these two windows side by side. Now if I run the script, it will create this my database .db file. And that's going to be my DuckDB database. Now if you want, you can also create a database in memory. In that case, you'll simply change the file path to :memory. And that's it. Now, DuckDB use the standard SQL syntax. However, because it is designed for analytical type of work, so for some of the functions and features, the syntax may be a little bit different. So sometimes you may need to go to the documentation sites and just make sure that you check the syntax. So for example, in most of the databases, you can create a sequential primary key or auto number primary key by inserting the auto number or serial keyword. But in DuckDB, if you want to create an auto number primary key column, so first you need to create a sequence object. And we can do that by using the SQL statement, create sequence, followed by the sequence object name. And you can name this however you want. And I want the number starting from 1. You can also specify the starting number from any number you want. Then we can create a table. So I basically have this create table statement. And I'll create a customer table. So my primary key is going to be this ID column. And it's going to be an integer data type primary key. And to set the number to be auto-populated based on the sequential number, so we need to type default next value and from this sequential personal ID object. So essentially, you can see this as a table that stores the current integer value. Now, if I go ahead and run the script, oh, and I forgot to come out this line here. Now, let me run the script again. And we have created a customer table. So it was pretty fast, as you can see that it didn't take that long. And the other thing I want to mention that, so if you notice that when I execute those SQL statements, I didn't need to use the commit statement. So if you use SQLite before, then you will know that you will need to execute the SQL statement, then you will commit the transaction or commit the SQL statement to take effect. But in DuckDB, you don't need to do that. So once you execute the SQL statement, the result will automatically populate or will translate into the database. Now, if I execute this select statement from customer and runs, and because I haven't created any records, so it's going to return as an empty list. Now I'm going to take the SQL statement that in which I loaded from this code block right here. Then I'll run the script again. Now this time, the records returns as a list, actually a list of tuples. So this is going to be the ID field, name field, email, and the phone number field. Now to close the connection, so basically you will reference the connection object, that close, and that's it. All right, so it's pretty easy, as you can see that, it's very easy to pick up. Now to go into the second example, and which is going to be a very useful use case whenever you need to load different type of data files, such as JSON file, CSV, text file, or Pocket file. All right, so I'm going to, actually, I've got to install the Pandas library. All right, so for this exercise, I want to show you how we can load the CSV file into our DuckDB database, as well as load the dataset into a data frame object. All right, so right here's my data file, and I'll create a function to automatically execute the SQL statement and return the result. I'm going to create a path object to point to my data file. Then I'm going to connect to my database. Now to load the data file, in this case will be my CSV file. And because I don't have the table created in my database, so I'm going to simply type create table, followed by the table name that you want to use. And I'll name my table, as, followed by /from. And this is going to be the data file path. Now, once we load the data file, we can create the records. So I'm going to pass the dataset into this result object. Now remember, when I query my records, the headers will not get returned. And to return the column headers, so we actually need to do one more thing. So we need to run this SQL statement, pragma, followed by using this table info function, giving the table name. So this will return the metadata of the columns of the table that you specified. And to return just the column headers of the column name from the column metadata object, and it's going to be a list. So we're going to iterate each element from this list. And the label name is going to be the second item from the element. Then I'm going to put that into another object called column names. Then I'll create my data frame object. So I'll type pd.dataFrame, and I'll pass the result set or the data set. Then I'll specify the column names. Then I'll print the first 10 records. Then close the database. All right, so let me go ahead and run the script. Actually, let me name the file to demo2. Actually, let me print the first 100 records. I also print the table dimension. I'll press F5 to run the script. Now, this may take a little bit of time because the file size is pretty large. All right, so it looks like the script is complete, and it took about less than 10 seconds. All right, so here we have the first 100 records across 31 columns. And if we look at the table dimension, we have almost 568,000 records. Now, there are other things that you can do. You can use DuckDB to process or perform different types of data engineering tasks concurrently. So that's one thing that you can think about in the future if you want to make your process more efficient. All right, so this is going to be everything I'm going to share in this video, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. And feel free to post your question or your feedback in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this video a like and click on the subscribe button. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.